Hello YouTube. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome. My name is Joni and this is the Knitting Attorney Podcast, episode 14, and this is where I talk about my knitting and occasional other crafting stuff. Before I get into this, I would just like to thank all of my new subscribers who have found my videos and decided they liked them enough to subscribe, so thank you. And if you're watching this and you're enjoying my content, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. So I had an actually really busy week at work this week, but somehow managed to make a decent amount of progress on my projects. I'm still continuing with trying to be a bit organized with how I work on my whips, and so I've kind of got 3 core projects I'm working on at any one time, and then bringing new things in as I finish them. So today, on that note, I have something finished to show you. And this is my Moonlit Shawl by Darling J'adore. And it is a little hard to show, but it's this half circle shawl with lace at the bottom, trying to give you a decent idea of what the lace looks like. It has these noops here and here that form this kind of spiky pattern, which I think is really cool. And I'm just gonna drape it over myself, be very cool here. So in my last episode, I talked about having some frustrations with this pattern, and in finishing it, that did not change. So I had mentioned that when I got to the lace border, I was pretty sure I had the right stitch count, but for some reason the lace pattern that the pattern has you do, when you get to the end, there's not the right number of stitches left. And I thought, maybe it's user error, maybe I was wrong on my stitch count. And I counted them, and no, I had the exact number that the pattern said I should have. And yet the lace didn't fit properly. So that wasn't too much of a problem. I was able to just kind of figure it out by making sure I just maintained my stitch count and did like a partial repeat of the lace. And I mean, you can kind of see it's evidence that it's not really a massive difference, except this side's a little bit more blocked than the other. But it didn't really affect the finished result in a way that bothered me. But then I got to the noops and it became a little bit more of an issue because you're working that first row of noops on the wrong side, and so I was starting from that area where I'd kind of had to fudge the stitches, and this is me being dumb, but it took me quite a few tries to figure out essentially where to place them, and trying to follow the pattern to the best of my ability. They ended up in the wrong spot. Then I made a guess and they ended up in the wrong spot, and I ended up having to just look very closely at the sample photos and just kind of completely make it up for myself in order to get them done. And so yeah, then the last row of them kind of worked out fine. That was on the right side, so I was kind of used to the pattern shifting a little bit, but yeah, in the end it took a lot more work, and I had to kind of invent a lot more of it than I would like for a pattern I paid for. The second area of frustration is really something I should have accounted for in the beginning, but when you're knitting it, you're just knitting like plain stockinette across this length, and so you end up with a really curled under sort of edge. And I thought this shawl would come out a bit bigger, but the resulting size wasn't really enough with that curl to stay on my shoulders, and so I made a little bit of a modification or addition where I went along this entire edge and just kind of picked up every stitch, and I knit 3 rows in garter stitch and then did an I-cord bind off, which I think turned out actually kind of pretty and pretty harmonious with the texture of the lace. So I'm happy I did it. I kind of just was winging it when I picked up the stitches. I wasn't sure how I wanted to finish this in a non-curling fashion, but I was doing the garter stitch and then I thought, you know, an I-cord on this would look nice, and so that's what I ended up with. And now it doesn't curl, so that kind of makes it stay on a little bit better. So yeah, those were two frustrations in this, and the third frustration is the blocking. So this is, I guess, specific to this yarn. If you were to use wool or whatever, alpaca, any sort of like animal or plant or whatever yarn, I used acrylic, and acrylic doesn't really wet block exactly, and so I had to steam block it. And one of the problems I had was I don't own like a garment steamer, and using an iron for that, I have the world's tiniest little like mini dorm sized ironing board, so I had to just kind of individually like pin out like 4 of these at a time, steam it, wait for it to cool a bit, move it, pin the next 4. It took hours, and I was going to give up and just come on here and say, you know, it's not blocked, but I'm going to call it done. But I really wanted this just out of the way because it was such a frustration. And so I did it, but it wasn't fun. So yeah, overall, I don't think I would recommend this pattern unless you really, really love the design and you're willing to make some changes and fudge things a little bit to make it work, because it wasn't particularly detailed, and I don't really like the super long patterns that walk you through every single thing or, you know, give you walls of text about it. I do like ones that keep things pretty minimal, but this one was just so small and it just seemed to be missing certain instructions that needed to be there. So yeah, it wasn't great. I have used a different pattern from this designer and it was fine. It was pretty good. So yeah, so use caution, I guess, is what I'm saying. So that was that. It's done. Don't have to worry about it anymore. So my next project is, this time it's an email, guys, not a text. My next project is my Harvest Tea by Ozetta, and this one, where I left off, I had finished the back and was working on the front, and I got about like 15 rows done on the front. That's all there is to say about that. It's, in case you haven't seen my previous videos, it is knit in Euro Yarns Belviso in the shade Miranda, and this is just a simple bottom-up t-shirt. Yeah, I think that's about all I need to say about that one. I'm hoping to make that one a little bit more of a focus when these next 2 projects kind of get done. So let's move on to the exciting stuff. So my next one is my town sweater, also by Ozetta. And last week I said I wanted to get half a sleeve done, and I got a full sleeve done. So full sleeve and then just a few rows into the second. So I'm not going to try this on right now because I want to wait for a big grand reveal when it's finished, but sleeve has turned out really nice. It's got this really long cuff. It's going to need to be blocked out a little bit, but I did a tubular bind off. There's not really a whole lot to say. It's just picked up stitches all around this armhole and then knit in the round with some decreases and then knit the cuff. I didn't make any modifications. The sleeve ended up fairly long on me, and I'm sure it'll get a little bit longer with blocking, but I actually really like that. It'll kind of ideally would come to like this area on my hand, so it kind of keeps my fingers warm. Yeah, So the yarn is Cece's wool, Peruvian alpaca tweed, and it's this just really pretty mix of like white and black and gray alpaca. It's so soft. So yeah, this guy I am hoping will be finished next week, because honestly the sleeve just flew by so fast. I think it helped them using metal needles. These are Chiaogus, and with those the yarn just kind of zips across them. So yes, definitely yarn like this, use some metal needles. It makes everything go so fast. So finally, because I finished this Moonlit Shawl, I decided to pull in my sort of backup project and do some actual work on it. And so this is now going to become part of my sort of regular rotation. And this is my balloon cardigan from Petite Net. Let me just arrange this so you can actually see it. But as you may see, I have reached sleeve separation. So this is knit in Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles and Ginger's hand-dyed Leading Lady Lace, which I'm gonna have to change to a new skein of that soon. So yeah, I actually just got to separating the sleeves last night and actually started knitting down, and I completed the first buttonhole today. So there's gonna be 4 buttons total. So yeah, marked where the button's gonna go. I think I might actually sew the buttons on as I go, just to save myself time. But yeah, this is going really fast now that I've gotten all of these sleeve stitches off of it. And I've knitted this pattern before, and each sleeve only took a couple days and the body only took a couple days. So I'm hoping I can actually finish the body this week, which is ambitious, but I might be able to do it. So I haven't made any modifications. I wanted to really knit this like exactly to the pattern, but because of the very colorful nature of this yarn, I did decide to start alternating skeins. So when I had just 2 rows left in the yoke, I actually switched to, this is the second skein of the Hedgehog Fibers yarn, and I kind of alternated them every 2 rows. I left the yarn I wasn't using right at the first stitch after the button band, and so I would go across and then back all the way, and then on my way out on the next right side row I would switch them, and I did that for approximately this length. Not a whole lot, but I wanted to save some of that first skein to kind of do the same thing on the sleeves, just so that I can make sure that everything blends well together. I don't get any kind of like weird patchy stuff. So hopefully that'll work. I've got a little ball like that much left. I might actually just divide it in half before I start on the sleeve, so they know that I can kind of have about the same amount to fade into whatever the next one is. Yeah, I'm usually not that good about alternating skeins, but for some reason this one, just because of how pretty it's coming out, I really wanted to try to do it right. So yeah, it's super soft. I'm loving how it's looking. So yes, that's actually all of my knitting projects for the week. If you can hear my dog barking, I apologize. He's a little silly. So yarn acquisitions. I have a couple, and these were all either by accident or they were just kind of forced upon me. So firstly, wrapping up December, I had a lot going on at work, and then I was so focused on relaxation, and I still have my Knit Crate subscription, but I've been skipping every month and I forgot to skip. So here's my January yarn. This is Audine Wool's Flannel. This is the shade Slate, and it's a DK weight yarn, 47% Surrey alpaca, 38% alpaca wool, and 15% non-superwash merino wool. And it's this pretty deep gray color. And they switched back to boxes. I hope I didn't show my address on there. I'm gonna have to blur that. Fun. So anyway, yeah, it's nice yarn. I've never had problems with the quality of their yarns. It's got a very kind of like rustic sort of texture that I like. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm sure I'll use that for something, but it is kind of annoying because I've been trying to limit the amount of yarn coming into my stash, and I've been kind of iffy on Knit Crate, although I am happy that they brought their sort of color vibes back, because now at least I can know what I'm getting. That makes me a little bit more comfortable, but anyway, I have mixed feelings, but you know, it is what it is. These things happen. I think this is how subscription services really make their money. Yeah, same thing happened to me with another subscription service this month. I'm really a mess. I need to clear this out. So yeah. And then in other yarn acquisitions, this involved no money changing hands, but I got this massive box. This is a box my mother had in her house that she just kind of offloaded on me because she had no use for it. And I'm not going to take you through everything that's in here. It's mostly just some bits and bobs, odds and ends, but there is a partially crocheted baby blanket that my mom started. If I could figure out what the stitch pattern is here, if anyone knows, maybe I could finish it, but it's quite pretty. I just don't really know what to do with it. I have a couple of skeins of this Caron Simply Soft in various colors. I've got white here, I've got pink, I've got this random bright blue acrylic, I have a black skein of Lion Brand Woolies, and I'm pretty sure this is a pretty old label on it. I have this mystery bulky stuff. I have a number of these granny squares that are completed, and I don't have the yarn to make more of them, so if you have any ideas of what to do with, like, I think I have like 4 of them, 5 of them maybe. Yeah. And the thing I'm actually kind of most excited about is I have about a skein and a half of this Premier Parfait yarn in this pretty light blue color. This is a chenille bulky weight yarn, and I think this is like over 400 yards, and this is probably another 100 or 200 or so. And I think together these would actually be enough to make a sweater, and not going to be the most classy of items, but I don't know, baby blue, chenille, fluffy, chunky sweater. I would wear it. Sounds comfy. So yeah, I have like 3 other boxes of yarns from my mother, which if anyone is interested, I could do a mother's yarn box tour someday, because there's some interesting things, some gems and just some weird ones. There's also some little projects from when I was like 9 and knew how to do a knit stitch and nothing else. Maybe I'll do that anyway, whether you guys want it or not, because it sounds fun. Clearly, because I like talking to myself. Anyway, so yeah, that was it for today's episode. If you watched this far, thank you, and I hope you keep watching my videos. Again, remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye bye.